Ever felt a bit ostracised, Keith?
Sorry?
Ever felt a bit ostracised over there?
I've deliberately done it because of my coughing.
That's why we always sat on this side as well. Yes, I've got a cross on mine as well.
Yeah, you are. We're good.
These are like little tablets that you go and go for dinner or lunch.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Hi, Richard.
Right, good evening, everybody. My name is Philip Wicks and so may I welcome you all to the March the 7th, 2023 meeting of the Planning and Community Committee of Woodley Town Council. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with recordings streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. So by virtue of attending the meeting, you are consenting to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your audio and image to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. The Town Council is consulted by Wokingham Borough Council on planning applications within Woodley, but the final decision of approved or refused is taken by Wokingham Borough Council. We will notify Wokingham Borough Council of the committee's views, which may include any comments and concerns expressed by members of the community affected by the application. So if anyone has any comments to make on any of the planning applications, then you need to formally write or send an email to the Wokingham Borough Council Planning Department, as they will take the final decision on the application. For those in attendance, we are not fire drill tonight, so if you hear the bells ring, please move quickly to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. Yeah. Right, we now get on with the agenda. We've got a little bit of housekeeping to do before we get on to looking at the planning applications. Matthew, do we have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Bragg, Sartorial and Soane.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? No? Okay, thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the Planning and Community Committee meeting held on the 31st of January. These were provided in the full council agenda on the 7th of February. So can we take those as read? Yes, thank you. Item 4 is a request from Wokingham with regards to the wording that we put on our comments going back to them. They've requested that we either raise no objections or objection rather than recommending refusal. So are we happy with that? Do we need to talk about it? Apparently they get townsfolk ringing them up complaining that the town council don't like it, but you've passed it anyway.
It doesn't feel like it's a bad thing.
Yes.
I think as long as we insert the word refusal in after the word objection, we're fine.
Because it says rather than the council stating recommends refusal.
Or we won't, we just add refusal in somewhere.
Right. Okay. Okay. We'll have to be careful how we word it. Item number 5 then is planning applications. Have about 14, I think, but we're going to take them slightly out of sequence because we have 1 or 2 applicants here, I think, or neighbours who would like to discuss them. So the first one I've got here is 23842, which is 16 Redwood. Just before I start on it, can I normally speaking, I send a note round to all the councillors asking them for comments, and then I collate them all together. Unfortunately, I've been in London, I haven't had a chance to collate them. So if you've all sent me comments, I'm going to apologise in advance, and I'll have to ask you just to refresh the comments orally if you can.
Not to read them out, yes.
Okay, so 16 Redwood is an application for the proposed erection of a part single, part 2-storey rear extension, including a rear Juliet balcony to the first floor and 2 roof lights, with changes to the fenestration following the part demolition of the existing rear extension. Comments, I've looked at the site and it says there's a neighbour comment about obscure glass to the side. It's a new 2-storey rear full width extension replacing the part full width current rear extension, but I couldn't see any properties to the rear. So does anybody want to discuss that? The floor is yours.
So I'm the resident
Of,
16.
oh, okay, yes,
You're the applicant.
Yeah.
you're the applicant. Okay,
Yeah, so I've seen that there was a comment regarding the obscure glass down the side.
Yep.
where windows fit in. It was just to really, I guess, kind of give our sort of thoughts on that. Other neighbours have had similar extensions down that section of the road. Previously, prior to us owning the house, there was a back door close to where that window is supposed to be. And to my knowledge, the back doors in those houses, they don't currently have good glass. So you see, we want to keep privacy as well as making sure we're not overlooking our neighbours. So it's certainly something that we're very mindful of doing. But the obscure glass currently isn't. I don't know whether that's something that needs to be in the application or not.
has anybody, let's go around the table. Has anybody got any comments with regard to the application for 16 Redwood? Carol?
Yes, the window in question is actually a playroom window. So as most humans in the playroom will be probably lower than the window, I'm hoping that they won't be very much overlooking. I think obscuring the glass would actually limit some of the light. I do take the residents, the applicant's point of view and the neighbour as well, but I think it probably is not that much of a problem, and hopefully the neighbours talk to each other. If it is, then something could be done in terms of a blind or whatever.
Yes.
I would be in favour of having obscured glass there, but I'm happy with the rest of the application.
Yeah.
I think I apologise. I may have misunderstood this. I thought it was requesting a obscure glass in the ensuite on the top, which I thought was a reasonable request, but I didn't realise it was downstairs as well. In which case, I may have to quickly have another look at this before I couldn't. I had no objection other than thinking that an ensuite with a chilled glass was reasonable.
Yeah, we would have to go from the bathroom.
Yeah.
So if you look,
The position of the window currently, just from our perspective, looking out the house, it would be looking at their wall, because of the way that the house is staggered. I've got some photos of it if that helps. But their back door.
sorry, just pass it around, sorry.
That's the driveway, that's the applicant's property, and this is the person who's objecting, whose back door there is. So the window would go
The
here.
extension, that no one's got any concerns about the extension. It's not-
That's probably talking about the.
It's just a negative comment about.
I've read, isn't it?
And it was normal colour.
That's the side.
Oh, yeah.
The window. can be down here.
The neighbours.
I'd call that. Oh, yeah, pass around. I think, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me now. I've seen that. So, yeah.
So that's the back door
Yeah.
of the neighbour's property. It's not got obscure glass. And that's a shared driveway. And the new window, Michael, is there, which isn't actually opposite their door, it's down here,
No, it is the front driveway.
further down the driveway, so it's not an viable view.
That was made clear in the application, I think.
But I mean, the standard design of the houses that has been changed has been that anyway. So originally, the two houses were on the back door.
Yes.
So it's not actually, they wanted to change back to what it was.
On the ground floor.
Yeah,
I think obscure glass.
so the window's going to be in this down here. Not looking at the back door.
They're looking over.
I personally think it's a good idea, and the rest of the application I'm happy with.
I think if obscure glass recommended to put that on, then apart from that, we have no objection.
Okay. Anybody else got anything to say now? So I guess we
I'm
should.
not, I'm gonna say I don't think a ground floor window with obscure glass is sensible. If that's, I think the upstairs one, yes, absolutely. I think if there's gonna be an ensuite up there, it should be, but I think you do that as a matter of course. I'm not gonna advocate for a playroom window with obscured glass.
I'm with Richard actually on this one, because I think it's not clear from the objection which window they're talking about.
Well,
And the obvious thing would be the top one. So I know, talking about windows both. We could cover this off by using the phrase no objection, but our normal one, please consider the residence views. I think that then catches both.
Yeah, we're happy with that?
Yeah, that's the proposal I was going to make to move it to one, yes.
Fine.
the result.
We don't make the decision.
Yeah.
No, of course, yeah.
Right, second one on the list is,
Have to say,
sorry.
You really want to.
if you have trouble sleeping at night, please stay.
There was just one item I saw at the end of the meeting that I
Okay, by all means, stay here, no problem. Okay, the second one to review is 230381, which is 38 Wilmington Close, which on your list, I think is number 13. This is an application for the erection of a part first floor, part 2-story side and part single part 2-story rear extension.
Excuse me, I haven't got this. I haven't really got the number
It's at
of the property.
I'm sorry, okay,
It's the
it's
top of the page.
230381, item 13,
Got it.
38. Okay, so it's a part first floor, part 2-story side and part single part 2-story rear with a lantern roof light following partial demolition of the existing garage and demolition of the conservatory. It's an L-shaped wraparound 2-story extension squaring off the rear and replacing the existing conservatory. The first floor side extension then goes over the existing garage and includes part of the new rear extension. This creates an additional 4th bedroom. I've looked at it and it appears that there is adequate parking. However, I think someone would like to make a comment.
Oh, yes, I tend to comment it. So that I think, because I live next door, I'll give this little building, just less than 3 metres away. Access to light and also my reason.
Okay, can we have a look? please?
Yeah, could I ask the neighbour just to explain which part of your house is affected by the 2-story elements?
3 windows.
Yeah.
4 windows. because I think there was a plan to put the garage out in the front.
It's just the two-story element I was interested in. As
The
to,
two-story element,
Yes.
yes.
So what
Yes,
is-
well, I have windows outside.
okay. And they're all non-obscure, you know, they're just normal windows to rooms you're
Well,
using.
one of them's my room window,
Okay.
yes, so that's still.
Yeah,
But it could be my kitchen window, which is one that pretty much the kitchen.
okay.
Which would be, I think, you know.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Where's north?
North is it's in the front, south at the back.
So it's south facing garden.
South that's exactly.
So you're 36, that's the one to the right, is it?
Yes,
So they're going just beyond your building line, are they?
Currently it cuts off around there, and the proposal is to,
We'll just go beyond. So you're on 36's building line, is it?
Could we see the elevation map from the neighbour, please? If you've got
that's fine.
that? Yeah, it's just the actual elevation,
The
so
elevations front back.
That's fine.
side elevation.
But the side is actually actually on the opposite. So 36 is not, you're joined to 38, are you?
No,
Oh, so you're the other side of the drive. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll go back to the elevation.
The corridor that goes down the side of the. Besides that,
So your concern is that it's going to take some of the right away.
yes, and privacy. I don't know the windows are on there.
Are there windows outside?
I think there are.
Don't think there are. Is that a bathroom?
That's the first floor, that's ground floor, can't see any windows.
And the elevation didn't show any windows.
That's a bathroom in the middle on the right, is it? On the first floor between those two?
No, that's not the suite.
No, to the right,
They cover.
in colour. Is that bathroom?
That's a
It's better to look at the elevations, not the plan. You need the side elevation.
That's the joined elevation, the other one.
So there don't appear to be any
Okay.
windows on your side, from what I can see.
That's what I wondered.
That addresses the privacy. There is no issue, there can't be any issue if there's no windows and privacy.
My garden.
Okay.
But I suspect officers at the council will do their light questioning anyway, won't they?
Yes.
It's a technical issue that we wouldn't comment on as a rule of thumb. I don't think there's anything here that we have the ability to object to in this committee,
No,
if
I
I'm being honest about it.
I think we just-
I don't think it's massing, I don't think it's out of character, I don't think it's, I can't remember the other things, but it's, yeah. I think we might make a recommendation that officers check the light implication, if everybody's happy with that. It puts the lady's mind at rest, that somebody will hopefully actually inspect that and check that it's legitimate.
I don't think we're going to need real objections apart from taking comments into account, which you've already written to the planning authority anyway.
The other thing I wasn't sure about was the scaffolding.
That would be probably been a building issue. Rather than a planning.
It won't be a planning issue at all. If the scaffolding need, in order to do the job, if the scaffolding needs to be on your property, that's totally between you and them. It's a civil matter. It's not a planning matter,
All right, yeah.
right? So you could have some fun and refuse to allow it. But that, as I said, it's solely a civil matter, not a planning matter.
Yeah, the other thing, just to make sure it's not, whether or not it's a party wall issue, you need to talk to a surveyor to see whether or not it would be a party wall issue, which they have to take into account any potential risk to your property. Yeah. I think that would be our conclusion.
Yeah.
Do that. Go back to this then, if we may. Item 1, 7 Mannock Way. It's proposed change of use of amenity land to residential garden, including erection of new boundary fence, plus the erection of a single-storey rear extension, installation of a rear dormer with a Juliet balcony to facilitate conversion of the loft to habitable accommodation, changes to fenestration, provision of new hard standing and a dropped curb. There are already several objections to the taking of amenity land. The new dropped curb will be on a bend, and with the move to fence in amenity land 1.8 metres high would introduce potential site issues for road users and create dangerous manoeuvres. Full width single storey rear extension should not impact the neighbours as the house is on a bend and the neighbour is a distance away. Loft conversion with Juliet balcony, but look into the side wall of the neighbour. There are already 4 car parking spaces on this property, and they already have a dropped curb which is separate to the new dropped curb proposed. Comments I have from Keith: there are many reasons to object to amenity land. Amenity land is there for the is given for a purpose and should only be given away under exceptional circumstances. I can see no extenuating circumstances to make this exceptional. The size of the immediately land loss is quite large. Juliet balcony, there appears to be an issue of overlooking into neighbouring properties. 1.8 metre fence, this property is on a bend and would significantly impair sight lines for drivers going around that bend. And this estate is 99% open at the front of the houses. Building this high fence will completely disturb the current street scene and therefore it would be inappropriate. Welcome any other comments, please.
My comments were virtually the same. Yeah.
You can guess I didn't like it.
I'll go along with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a number of rejected numbers 8, 9, 16, 47, 53, 54, 56, 57. One thing that I have forgotten is the fact the amenity land soaks up rain. One of the comments made, bear that in mind as well. When we lose amenity land, it's going to increase danger of flooding.
If you could say that to everybody changing their front drives to hard standing, can't you, as well? That's another problem, isn't it? So that's
Chairman, just can I, for the residents here, the gentleman who's just spoken is a town councillor, but he isn't actually a member of the committee. That's why he's sat there.
but you could have, yeah.
So we've got to object to this.
Going to object.
If I won't get in.
Excellent.
You've got plenty there to vote with.
I've got enough notes.
The word refusal has to appear somewhere.
So we say we object to you making an approval.
Have some fun with it, man.
Give you a bit of poetic license. Change that. Okay. Item 230089 is 22 Kingfisher Drive. This is erection of a single-storey rear extension, part single, part two-storey side extension, plus erection of a front canopy following demolition of the existing side extension. There are adverse comments from neighbours, including a request to list the application. Major concerns about access to the property. It's on a hammerhead. Have you looked at?
Yeah.
Have you looked at the drawings? And the disruption it would do to the existing parking arrangements. This large extension almost doubles the size of the first floor with a similar increase in the ground floor. The extension leads to the side by a public walkway, so the actual extension isn't so much a problem. So the effect on neighbours is minimal from that point of view. And one of the adverse comments was from a borough councillor who wants to be listed in the application. However, other councillors here have looked at the previous applications and tried to compare this with the new application and couldn't find any differences between both. Nothing that stands out. The previous application 210624 was approved and therefore Councillor Baker can see no reason to object to the new one.
Can I, by the way, Chairman, it has been listed.
Right.
Councillor Bumato has listed it.
I saw a comment that a pitched roof had been swapped for a flat roof, so that must be the change.
Possibly, yeah. Carol?
Thank you. Yes, that was the change I've noted on my comments. So there was a difference there. I'm concerned about this one, have been every time it's come up. It's been, the applicant has compared it to a similar or two similar extensions. Both of those are in very different positions. This one is at the end of the cul-de-sac. It's next to the footpath, as you were saying. It's also next to a very large tree, which if you look at the tree plan, the spread of the tree is shown as impinging on the extension. So the extension is getting, even now, close to that tree. So that concerns me. It's said to be a granny annex, yet there's no bedroom facility on the ground floor. I know I can't assume that all old people or grannies can't climb stairs, but to me, we often, we're a bit more forgiving with granny annexes in terms of planning because there's a need for it. But one would expect to be, the bedroom on that lower floor. So that's strange. The parking is a problem everywhere in Kingfisher Drive, Water Drive, or whatever. But if you look at the plan, where they've shown the two cars, they are very close to the fence, and in fact, the driver wouldn't get out. But it's very tight, and it's just the street scene. So if you come up to the end, it's fairly open. Very long front gardens to the neighbouring properties. And then you've got trees and an opening because of the footpath. And then this very large extension is going to impact the street scene.
It is large.
So I have an objection to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to have objection to it, but we really need to recognise that it has been approved before. And so therefore the planning committee or the officer involved has already effectively made a decision on this, apart from the flat roof, and which to me is a minor thing. And for us to fly in the face of that, I think is inappropriate. The issue on the granny annex, that's not a planning matter. No. We'd like to think it is, but it is absolutely not a granny annex. They threw it in, presumably, to get an emotional attachment, but there's nothing in planning law that says if you put a granny annex and it's going to be this, that, and the other. But to me, the overriding issue, and I'd love to make all those issues, is that it has been approved in the past, and I'm 99.999% it's going to be approved again.
They've certainly approved the footprint, haven't they already?
Yeah, and the biggest issues tend to be the footprint.
Yes.
So I don't know how you can resolve that.
The only comment I would make is that you would have assumed that this may have been an amendment to an existing application rather than a new application.
Is it not the application ran out of time?
No.
Okay, because I know one of the ones in here did that.
So if it's a brand new application, I suppose we can object if we want to, or we can draw some concerns. That's
I wonder
more
if
than an objection.
I begrudgingly agree again with Keith in that regard, in that it's been approved, and if you look at that as the benchmark, it's difficult to say based on changing a pitch roof to a flat roof, we now suddenly object. But I do think that my suggestion, and it remains valid, would be wording it along. I mean, God knows how this is going to fit with the new instruction, Matthew, but to word it along lines of, the committee's views have not changed since the last application, which were this. However, given that this is approved, there are no further objections or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Almost to prove the point that
I'd be happy with that.
we didn't particularly like it to start with. We accept that a decision has been made, but actually we will repeat the concerns that we had from the first application. and kind of word it around that, just as a kind of, there is nothing new here to object to, but
The fact it's going to be lit anyway, the borough council
Yeah,
can
yeah.
make all the noise that
exactly, there'll be a.
that they want to.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, we'll go along with that.
Carol isn't.
Like, oh, sorry, Gav.
So I take Keith's point, and I know it's all about planning and what you can. But this committee is here for their local point of view. I go past that house on my bike many, many times in the week. And I know the issues of parking there and everything else. And I just think sometimes there ought to be this local point of view to put it into context. Otherwise, quite honestly, we needn't sit here because somebody in Wokingham with all the planning guidelines and rules could be making decisions and that's end all. And I think we have a real task here to actually put that, local point of view. I'm happy if it's, added on at the end or somewhere, but I just think it's got to be recorded somewhere or those comments made so that they're well informed.
Okay, so I don't have an issue putting a note down about parking, I don't think. Unless anybody else has.
I think that was my point really, was to, these things mustn't be left out. We've made an objection to this in the past. It may be that we expand on some of that because
So we can.
I think our previous comments were just, we got worried about parking, weren't they?
It was mostly that, yes.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
but I mean, maybe
It's a story that it impacts a tree.
I think, my view on that is shared. Karen, you've got-
So we can use the wording that Richard came up with, and perhaps we'll just add a bit, including parking concerns and concerns about damage to a local tree, a large tree. We put that in, then it's drawing their attention to the fact that, okay,
Chairman, are we doing objection or no objection? Because I just want clarity.
What I picked up, I think you would like as a committee to reiterate the previous objections to the application, adding on
Yes.
what Councillor George has said, whilst also recognising the fact that the previous application was approved and based on the change of the application, there were no further objections to the change.
So no objections with all the text, but end of the
I
day,
think
it's no objections.
it's important to
I
prove
get
that
that.
point, isn't it? By the way, Matt, very well.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I do this.
I think, Mr. Chairman, your point about a new number actually flags up that this is significantly different.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be an amendment. And I think that's a very.
that's why I thought it was worth mentioning, because normally speaking, people start and then they come on afterwards and say, I've decided to change this from a pitch roof to a flat roof.
Yeah.
And then you get an amendment coming through, rather than what appears to be a completely new application. So if you want it, it's up to you, as a group to.
Well, I still have
decide
no
what we're going to do.
objections because whilst I accept we have to reflect residents' views, we also have to reflect reality. So
If this hadn't come up before and hadn't been approved before, for all those,
I would be saying all the things
you
that,
would be objecting.
yep,
So perhaps we should kind of bring that into the comments, because that's what I think.
I think
I
that's
don't
what
know.
we've said.
Yeah.
Said we refused it before, or we objected to it before.
Really want to state,
We really,
you want to state
want
all the
object,
points that you
Yeah.
believe, you, as a committee, you do have objections,
But we recognise the situation.
recognising that it's been approved before.
Yes.
Can we put a note in then that if you're going to object, make sure we object to this new proposal?
Yeah, make it clear, that's right.
That keeps it away from the previous proposal, doesn't it?
just be careful, because if you're going to do that, then you can't sort of say, we're bringing forward our objections from the previous. That's halfway house.
Noting that there are very few changes to the previous application, it's not unreasonable to have the same objections to this as there were.
That's right. And it's going to be listed anyway. Well, it is listed now.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the next one is 230123, which is 50 Londonbridge Road. This is a single-storey front extension. A comment from a neighbour that part of the extension is on their land and the proposed application has not taken into account the need to reduce the width of this part of the build to keep the structure within the boundary of the property. The application is to square off the front of the house with a small extension for width. I don't know that I've got no particular objection to the application, although obviously we would put our normal comment in that we think that the neighbour's comment should be taken into account.
The neighbours' comments are exclusively about boundary.
Yeah.
And that's not a planning matter, so
Building regs, isn't it?
Building regs, yeah.
it's a civil matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to be clean and just no objections.
No objection, but refer to any comments made by neighbours and just let them. 230173 is 39 Callback Drive. Proposed erection of a single-storey front extension. The new front entrance porch, 2.5 metres wide with a cloakroom. Other properties in the row have done something similar. Has anybody got any concerns about that one? No? Okay. 230193, 8 Warren Road. Demolition of the existing UPVC and polycarbonate construction with the erection of a single-storey rear extension with internal alteration and a blind dormer on the side elevation to accommodate an increase in the first floor bathroom size. My only comments: first floor dormer to increase the bathroom size maintains the existing footprint by bringing the dormer to the existing building line. The existing rear conservatory is replaced by a slightly wide rear extension, similar in depth the furthest point of the current conservatory. The current conservatory is not a square box, it's the usual sort of hexagonal type shape. Has anybody got any concerns, worries? No? So we're happy with that one. 12 Arundel Road, 230226. Subdivision of the existing dwelling to create 1 2-bedroom dwelling and 1 3-bedroom dwelling. The attached number 14 has already done this, so it's difficult to object. All the work appears to be internal, apart from changes to the front entrance. The comments suggest there was some, there were some comments on the web portal suggesting that it will not change vehicle movements, but I find that hard to believe, because if you're going to double the number of families in a house, I imagine you're going to double the number of vehicles.
Not necessarily.
No, not necessarily.
You know, if you go from a family of 5 to a family of 2 lots of 3 or a 3 and a 2.
Does anybody want to make any comment on that? Happy with that, are we? Okay. Next one is number 3, Weeble Drive. Proposed erection, single-storey front extension, part single, part 2-storey rear extension with a roof light. Ground floor front extension is similar to the neighbour, but will extend out further than the neighbour. This is number 2 in a terrace of 5. 6 metre deep, full width ground floor rear extension with the first floor extension about half width and half depth for an increase in size to the existing bedroom. Has anybody got any comments to raise on that? So we're happy with that one. 30280, 6 Tiger Close, first floor side extension. This is an extension above the garage and utility room to provide a 5th bedroom. Parking to this property is already congested. The property is on the corner. Most garages in the area have either been built on or converted to a study or similar. Gareth.
Yeah, I think parking will be an issue, but we never win on that one. So I don't suppose we could say elsewhere, but you can see it happens now and it's going to happen again,
Yeah.
but they won't listen. So.
Anybody else got anything to say? So maybe we just make the usual comment that we've got no objection and no cut, but parking should be reviewed. Number 10, 230295 Woodley Library. This is to vary condition 5 of planning consent, which is to do with the air source heat pumps and the fact they want them to operate longer hours, to change to between 2300 and 2 o'clock. This application only relates to operating times. Our previous comments have itemised issues by levels for other local residents, which this could affect to their detriment. Now, this has been through twice, is it, I think? Because they had to relocate. We suggested they relocate it and put an acoustic enclosure around it at one time, didn't we? But I don't know whether they did.
They did under duress. So Carol's got her hand up first, and I shall stand on the soapbox.
Build a soapbox while I'm here. I would definitely object to this one, Mr. Chairman, in a sense that it's not clear, it's not transparent, and I think anything the Wokingham Borough is, themselves, the planning authority, should make their applications very transparent. They are needing to extend the working hours of this, presumably to make the whole thing work. Why they didn't know that to begin with is the main issue. But the other one is the noise, because we know that this, Richard, I'm sure, will explain all about the noise. But just to read you a bit from the Environmental Health Officer's report last time. In terms of noise mitigation, this will be acceptable provided the heat pumps are switched off at night. It is assumed that the heat pumps will only need to operate during the day when the library is open and operating. And I think that says it all. It in fact has been listed by Councillor Shirley-Boyd.
Right.
So that will have a further audience at Wokingham Borough. Right, soapbox, Richard.
I engaged quite heavily with the residents previously on this one. I haven't managed to get hold of them to discuss this revision. But it doesn't, even if they said, no, I'm fine with that, I think there is a degree of principle at stake. The noise assessment that's included in the new pack is, I think, we should acknowledge is a far better document than the previous one. It's comprehensive, they've clearly done some work, it wasn't a desktop survey, they've been out. I think my slight concern about it is the original planning restriction was specific to protect the neighbours at night, and it was a recommendation of the Environmental Health Officer. There's another comment, and I'm sorry, I meant to bring it up and I seem to close the window on my tablet, but I'll paraphrase slightly. There's a comment in that noise assessment that says the Environmental Health Officer accepted that 5 decibels above normal background noise would be acceptable. When you actually read the report and you get to the table of background noise, it's 9 decibels above background between the hours of 11 and 7 a.m. So it contradicts itself immediately. If I may cast my mind back to GCSE Science circa 1996, which is quite an effort. You're not that old, are you? I know, I've still got the barnet there saying to you. But the noise and decibels are measured on a logarithmic scale, not a linear scale. So 9 decibels, so the difference between 39 decibels and 30 decibels, if I'm remembering correctly, is, I believe, more than twice the volume. So actually, we're brushing 9 decibels. It doesn't sound very much. And you could even go, oh, well, it's only, 28% or whatever, but it's not. It's more than 100% increase in nighttime volume. And actually, Carol's point, which is probably why this gets up my nose the most, to be truthful, there's the social issue here, which I think is that it's using technical inspection to resolve a mechanical problem. That makes sense. We're using procedure to remove a failure in project design and implementation. But also, it is Wokingham marking their own homework. We move the goalpost, we move the goalpost, we move the goalpost. Our suggestion in the first instance was put it where you said you were going to put it in the first instance, and there is no problem. And if they'd have done that, we wouldn't be having this conversation now, because it wouldn't affect any residents whatsoever. So my objection, and I passionately want to object to it, even if the neighbour doesn't actually object to it.
You'd like to recommend refusal?
I would like to recommend refusal, but more on the grounds of I think that the narrative surrounding both the report and the decision notice is deliberately misleading. And I know that's a strong comment, but I think I'll stand by it. And actually, I think this whole episode requires proper investigation on how the council has squandered quite so much public money getting from point A to point B, and potentially properly upsetting some long-term members of the Woodley community. I'll get down off my soapbox now and somebody can put a counterpoint.
Yeah, whilst I totally agree, the ineptitude of the planning office is very well illustrated about this whole, that's not a planning matter. So, you know, you can't use that as a rationale for refusing. Both Carol and Richard have mentioned the environmental health officer, but unfortunately they've been selective in their quotes. In the latest document, which is the noise assessment, which I agree, they should have done this at the beginning, right? So on page 14, 6.20, both the EHO, Environmental Health Officer, and the Planning Officer consider this acceptable, finding no objection for an application requesting a change of planning condition 5, allowing the plant to operate from 2 a.m. Now, I haven't got GCSE, whatever it was. I've got art, but nothing else.
Physics, I think it was.
Yeah. So because I'm a layman, I would tend to rely on the environmental health officer. So, well, you know, you can't have it both ways, Carol. You can't say the negative report from the first time from the environment, that's good, and the positive report the second time saying that's bad. Either you trust the environmental health officer or you don't. And if you look at some of the tables, for instance, on page 12, table 3, assessment of indoor levels assuming closed windows. And what we're talking about is indoor levels inside that bedroom, okay? The bedroom criteria, according to the standard, is 30, I guess, decibels, all right? The measurement, they measured it from 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. And then they broke it down to 2 a.m. 7, 3 a.m. 7, 4 a.m., etc. 30 was the limit. It was 21, 20, 19, 18, 17. So that actually fits with alleged criteria. If you then look on the next page, page 13, table 4, that first assessment was with all closed windows, right? In the winter time, generally, most people in a bedroom don't have windows open. They lay on that little strip, you know, the ventilation strip, because it's too damn cold to have them open. But the second assessment, this table 4, was where they partially opened that window to see what change it made. So again, coming back, same criteria, 30 is 30 decibels. It went up, as you would expect, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27. So based on those two tables, I would find, again, I'm a layman, them to be acceptable. However, the clincher to me is if the environmental health officer, who is the professional, says that they have no objection to this change, then I will defer to the professional in exactly the same way you guys tried to defer or did defer to the same environmental health officer on the previous crap noise assessment. I'll get off my show. You can have your soapbox.
It's quite normal in an office for the noise levels to be NC 35. Because from my background of air conditioning, and the normal noise in an office is about NC 34. So I've been involved in noise quite a bit.
One of my concern is, I mean, this is the library which within that area you have few restaurants, a pub, car park. Obviously they're making similar decibel noise while they're coming out of the restaurants, closing the car doors. If there are between 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock timetable, if you change that to 7, like 5 o'clock in the morning, would that make any better?
I don't know, I don't think any of us can comment on that because we're not
Yeah,
professional.
because if you look at, for instance, I mean, the public's got nothing to do with it. If you get aeroplanes landing at Heathrow Airport, they don't allow anybody to land after midnight till the first flight lands 5 o'clock in the morning because of noise issue. I think if you extend the hours of between 11 to maybe 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, because you need to consider there are restaurants, there are pub, there's car park there, people come in, that's a different noise to, no different noise to this.
They want to start up again to 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
don't they?
And then, I mean, that could be the question, the compromise around it is, I'm not. My objection remains, and if we put this to a vote, I would still vote for an objection, to be truthful. I think I would be minded to agree that the times could potentially be subject to some alteration. I think I'm very uncomfortable with the complete removal of a stipulation, although as Keith quite rightly says, the environmental health officer does say there's no issue with it. It comes back to that unease around the whole situation as it's arrived here. And, you know, I suppose that's where I'm at. And I think that's a good point well made, that perhaps it's not changing the times, it's what times are suitable more than, you know, just removing it. So I think that's something that I'd be willing to take on board. If we come to an impasse, I suppose we might need to dig in on it, but although I recognise Keith's point and its validity, because it is a good point, I still want to object to it.
Actually, do you want to say something?
Yeah, whatever I want to say already explained by Carol and Richard in
Okay.
detail. And I just want to add one more point. Restaurants and pubs and other facilities are not free. So who are going to use this library? This is free service. So there it's possible that users are a little bit different as compared to restaurants or pubs are here in library. I just want to add this point, and I have nearly same objections and I will oppose it.
Can I just, Jeff, for clarification, the recommendation, at least from the noise report, is to actually change from the whole night restrictions to 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. So it's not a carte blanche. So in other words, they could start at 2 a.m. Plus, remember that certainly reading the detail here, these plant is not running all the time. It's intermittent. Now, you could argue that intermittent noise is worse than constant. I don't know. I'm not a noise expert or an environmental health expert, but I just wanted to make that absolutely clear. It's not free for all.
The biggest problem with intermittent is it quite often will create a bigger noise when it starts up rather than when it's actually running. That's the big problem. Carol?
I don't want to prolong this, but it does say in the report about the whole system having to start up an hour beforehand to get going. I suppose warm up. I don't know why, but so we're not just talking about 11:30 till 2. It's almost creeping to not stopping at all. But the whole point about this is we've already had part of it's retrospective. They've made this issue themselves, and I don't believe that this will be the end of it. I wonder if they've got their sums right even now, irrespective of noise, but the sums will produce.
Put me off getting a heat pump, I'll be honest, and I was quite keen on one.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, Carol, you were implying that they would start up at 1 o'clock. They wouldn't. It's the restriction is 11 p.m. to 2 p.m. So they couldn't start until 2 p.m. 2 AM, sorry, 2 AM.
But
That's when the startup
I
starts.
don't
But anyway,
think,
I think we're not going to resolve it. I think you need to go to a vote, Chairman.
Anyone else want to say anything first? Right, who's in favour and objecting?
In favour of objecting?
Those who object.
Those who object.
All right, okay.
Oh, okay. Seems to be passed that we're objecting.
Can I record my vote, please, as well as no objection?
Did someone say this has been listed?
yes, Jenny Wallace listed it.
Okay, next one is 2303, which is 35 Gemini Road. Detached outbuilding to form a garden room. There's a square box garden, 2.5 metres by 2.6, to be sited behind the garage and between the garage and the boundary fence. And there appears to be a similar room neighbouring. Has anybody got any comments on that one? We happy with that one? Okay. Fine. 230349, 33 Cartmel Drive. Replacement of an existing rear extension, including a new roof lantern and proposed drop curb. I've said the rear and full width extension is approximately 1.2 metres for new kitchen dining area. Extended drop curb to replace current hope. Well, when you look at Google, you see a couple of ramps onto road from the footpath. So just a couple of homemade ramps. Has anybody got any comments they want to make on that one? Or are we happy? We're happy with that one, are we?
Yeah.
Okay. 230385, 82 Bruce Road. Erection of a single-storey side rear extension and park garage conversion to create habitable accommodation. This is ground floor extension, including the width of the side garage, conversion of part of garage to additional bedroom bathroom. This is increasing the bedrooms by 1. But the garage is part of a block of 3 garages, and it is unclear what effect the new build may have on the remaining garages, brackets, party wall issues. The deeds may need review. That is probably not a planning issue, but it might. It's just a comment.
No objection.
No objection? Oh, right, okay. Right. Fine. So the next one is 51 Woodway, which is 230388. Household replication for the proposed erection of a front open porch, raising of the roof, including insertion of side dormers and roof lights to create first floor habitable accommodation, insertion of a Juliet balcony, changes to windows and demolition of a chimney. There have been objections from 49 as the layout of the carport is not correct. Conversion of a bungalow to a dormer bungalow, 3 ground floor bedrooms moving to 1 ground floor and 2 in the new loft area. Many houses in this area have been developed with the first floor and side dormers. The Juliet balcony is very shallow and should not affect the neighbouring properties. Apart from the fact we don't like dormers. So many precedents have been set.
I thought it, I mean, the dormers go, it wasn't bad.
Sorry.
If you said you can never object to another dormer again, as long as they're all like that, I'd say, okay.
Mouse.
So we've got no issues with that, apart from just the usual comment about taking the neighbours' comments into account. Okay, thank you. 230397, 83A Loddon Bridge Road. This is an application to vary condition 2 of a planning consent. It details the variation to allow the erection of a single-storey rear extension with a lantern roof light and 2 roof lights. Retrospective. We've looked at this before. This is the one on the which way? And I thought, was it last month or the month before we saw the same one? Yeah. So I'm not. It's obviously come up because of some action woken.
I thought it's probably due to somebody's complained about something.
Yeah.
And enforcement said, yeah, you did that wrong. So normalise it by putting in an application. That quite often happens.
Because I think what it was probably built wrongly. So they put an application in to extend it. Someone's probably gone back and said, no, it wasn't an extension. You built it wrong in the first place. Therefore, you should reapply. We've got no problems with that, have we?
No.
Okay. And the last one is 230405, which is 245 Luddenbridge Road. Proposed loft conversion with rear facing dormer, Juliet balcony, along with changes to window, front and side elevation. Loft conversion with a rear facing dormer remains as a 4-bedroom with 1 box room treated as a study, and the new 4th bedroom and ensuite in the converted loft space. The adjoining property appears to have done some similar work to the loft as it has windows suggesting living accommodation. Does anybody want to? No? Okay. We're happy with that one.
That'd be nice.
So item 6, page 9, which is comments with regards to previous planning.
Just before we go, the reason why I went up to the 2 residents there was to identify which agenda item they were interested in, to see if we could move it up.
All right.
And it turns out they're interested in the enforcement right at the end, which we don't comment on anyway. That's why they've left, because I explained that to them.
Thought it was something you'd said.
Probably, usually is. Mind you, you're still here.
Yeah, true. It's been me.
Right, so page 9 then shows the approved 79 to 80 2 outbuildings. This is the one which we were concerned to share common footings. We weren't concerned about buildings, only the fact that they appeared to share common footings. That's been passed. And 4A Coleman's Moor, erection of a 1st floor extension and replacement roof. I don't remember that one.
It's right at the back, it's behind 4A, up an old gravel path. It was a garage, then it turned into a single story, like a studio flat. And now they want to put a roof on. And so it's a big house right behind the bungalows, which was why we objected. And it's very close to the new Loddon Park, whatever, Gardens houses. So, which is why we objected to it. Yeah. So it's very disappointing.
Yes, yes, I know the one you mean. Okay. Apart from that, they agree with us, or is it we agree with them? I'm not sure which goes around it. Item 7, planning appeals. 213106 Headley Road East. This is the erection of 5 buildings for commercial development. These are the ones that sort of backed onto the houses, I think, and also required access from the side road, didn't they, as opposed to access from Headley Road. So we weren't happy with that one, so that's gone to appeal. And the other one, which is not in area, but it's Sonning Golf Club. This is the application for a specialist dementia residential care unit. I noticed the signs have gone up to say it's been purchased by some organisation that supplies those sorts of buildings. And we objected primarily because of the road issues, I think. But that's gone to appeal as well. Item 8, tree preservation orders. Do we need to go through those, or can we take them as read?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 8, local government boundaries. Appendix 9. Do we have comments to raise? Please, I'd be disappointed if you didn't have.
I just wanted to bring to the attention that when you look at it, there is a complete rejigging of the parish boundaries as well, parish wards. I've been in communication with the Local Government Boundary Commission, and they have confirmed to me that unlike the borough wards, which are changing, which will force all-out elections in 2014, sorry, 2024, thank you. The parish wards will not be enforced to an all-out election. So in other words, the parish changes will not come into place until, we're 2023, 2027. I thought that was important to clarify. But apart from that, that's the only thing. I know Carol's been very active in this and so have I.
Yes, just to say, I did play an active part in working out the figures and everything else, and making a proposal, which I'm very pleased to see has been adopted and accepted. And I think it is a fairer split or break up or whatever you like to call it, carve up of the area. And so I'm all in favour, and it would be it'd be good if the town council agreed on that and made that comment.
I agree with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's all.
Yes, I went with the original officer's recommendation. There's a minor difference between the two. Nothing that I would fall on the sword. Yeah. So I have no problems with this.
So are we minded to accept that?
That mean we actually send a supporting communication, because at the end of the day, it is consultation. It's consultation. It is a consultation at the moment. So this 10th of April. So I would propose, and I'm sure Carol will second, that we write to the Local Government Boundary Commission saying that we have no objections. That's the right word, isn't it? No objections to their proposals.
Put into objections. Fine.
Yeah, are we happy with that? Okay.
Yeah.
That please. Okay, then on page 16 is just the note from legal visiting in respect of the annual grant that was provided. Item 11, do we have any community issues, please?
No.
I raised one earlier about the signboard at Woodley Glendevon Road, which seems to be subject to refurbishment, I think.
Yeah, I can provide some input on that. I'm pestering this man here, not you, Richard, young Kevin, that you may well have seen the new signs that have come out outside the Oakwood Centre. There's a complete refresh of all our signage. That's the first step. And what I've asked Kevin to look into is effectively go right the way across the whole of Woodley, effectively removing existing boards and putting in new, more appropriate. Because now, if you look out there, you see the notice board, which is right next door to this really nice, well-designed, brand new sign for the Oakwood Centre. It really makes it even look even shabbier than it is. So I assume something like that will come to SNR in due course.
Yes, Carol?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it comes under, but I was looking at one of the applications that we'd agreed to in Sycamore, Linden Road, which is where they were taking up the amenity land by the garages. I don't know if anybody remembers.
Well, these sort of block of garages.
Yes, the garages at the back, big wide area, and they've taken up. I was going past that, and the wall is not quite like Colditz, but it's rather, I have taken a picture, it stands out rather. And it was just a comment that I think we ought to pay attention to boundary treatment. I don't know that we always do with looking at the details in the application, but I think if I'd seen what they were proposing on that one, I think I would have raised some sort of objection.
Is this a freestanding wall?
Yes.
It is.
But it goes right the way round, and it's quite impressive, but it also is it stands out. So
Okay. Well, I haven't seen it, so I'm not able to comment.
I'll show you a picture afterwards.
Okay, so it's probably worth just making a comment. Something we need to consider. All right. We move on to highways issues then. No? Apart from the bumps in the road. Some of the signage at Modern Bridge is still a bit covered over in vegetation. I think. It's okay if you know the road, but I'm always concerned that someone who's not familiar with it will suddenly decide to turn left when he shouldn't because he can't see the signage.
I think with all the road work, somebody might bring a hedge trimmer along.
Possible.
The biggest example of that is down at Showcase Cinema. When you come up around to the roundabout to go off, you just right. in
Talking
there.
about, yes.
I have probably complained about that 30 times. And they do come about 18 months after your complaint and cut it back. But what actually it needs is not just hedge trim, it needs the trees or whatever it is, the shrubs, to be taken out. Or move the sign to be a little bit further out. I mean, it's, yeah, that's the worst one.
You know where we are, Matthew? You know where
Showcase Cinema, yeah.
Yeah, you know where we're talking about. It's when the filter lane goes left.
Turn right to get onto the 3 to 9M and you turn left to come into Bardaway.
Because I've seen in the past people in the outside lane who are supposed to turn right just cut across as well because they're not sure of the route. So you
Actually, if they're like that, they should just get onto the roundabout and go around and then. But anyway.
yeah, well, I don't know. Okay. Anything else on that? No. All right. Item 13 is just publications that Matthew has sent round, which is the ME2 Club, January, February, Thames Valley Policy, Community Speedwatch newsletter, and CCB e-bulletins, February and March. 14 future agenda items. Anything else we want to add? No? Okay. 15,
Sorry. Not necessarily a future agenda item, but I was at, what was it you sent me to?
Yeah, sorry.
The integrated town council and doing nothing type meeting.
Bunch of proper names.
Yeah, anyway, so I represented the town council. I'm not going to tell you what went on because frankly, nothing went on. It was a massive, 2 hours of my life I've lost with no gain. But one thing that did come out is that there are, I think it's 4 or 5 training sessions that they're putting on for borough councillors. And Councillor Conway announced at that meeting that town and parish councils would also be available to that. And Matthew, you might want to follow up. They're on all different parts of planning. That was quite interesting. It's all virtual as well. Sorry, that was complete.
Complete waste of 2 hours.
Well, that was 5 minutes. 2 hours of which 45 minutes was spent by either Stephen, who I can listen to for hours because he's a great speaker, and the people running it. So you lost 45 minutes out of a 2 hour, and it was a strict 2 hour, and it's like there's something wrong here. But anyway.
okay. So anything else on the publicity website? No? Okay. So item 16, pages 17 and 18 is enforcement notification, case closures. Notifications 105 Coleman's Moor. Has a development commenced? Question. 199 Loddon Bridge, a large shed or outbuilding in the garden without planning permission. 132 Antrim, completed outbuilding without planning permission. 198 Coleman's Moor, unauthorised car repair business. 27 Ravensbourne, creation of a wall to the front of the property. Did you see that one, Carol?
The wall, don't worry.
Be our wall expert.
132 Antrim, again, unauthorised outbuilding and works to a TPO. Twice, isn't it? 27 Ravensbourne, again, breach of condition RE with regards to parking. Enclosures, 79, 18, 79 and 81. 79 London Bridge Road, large outbuilding without planning permission, application submitted. 4 rows closed, breach of condition, reference opening windows, no breach. 12 Gainsborough Close, rear shed used for housing people, no breach. 2 London Bridge Road, drama extension fitted,
Drama, don't like it.
dormer extension fitted with French doors without planning permission, no breach. 15 Hudson, guttering overhanging neighbouring property, no breach. 29 Redwood, side extension being built without planning permission, no breach. 93 London Bridge Road, check on and compliance with ES 458.
That on Chestnut.
83A London Bridge Road, refused Clued application, application submitted.
It's certificate of lawful use,
Is that certificate of something?
lawful use.
105 Coleman's Moor, as 2335 development commenced, no breach. And finally, Livingston Gardens, no possible works to trees covered by TPO, no breach.
105 Collinsmore Road is in both the new one
Yes.
and closed off.
Just to let you know that obviously because we straddled 2 months, we get notifications on the 1st of each month.
Okay, so that's
for February and 1st of March, so they've just been pulled together.
smart, Alan.
Sorry.
Right, I think that concludes the agenda. Thank you very much.